This car just feels like the complete package now.
The E46 M3 CSL, or Coupe Sport Lightbow, is wonderful. Beautifully balanced, terrifically tactile, and sensationally sonorous. It is arguably the best M3 ever. But the bit that generally causes some argument is the SMG2 automated manual gearbox. Now, however, there is a solution to that, as these two chaps have proved.
My name is David. I work for Jaguar Land Rover as a vehicle dynamics test driver.
Hello, my name's Dara. I've got a history in professional motor racing, from single-seaters to endurance GTs to Formula One, and now I've found my niche and escape plan.
I bought my CSL in 2015. I first wanted one after I saw it on TV in 2003. I've owned a few cars from that era. I think I was quite impressionable as someone just learning to drive in 2003. So I also owned a Noble M12 before this, Focus RS, all the greats from that year. I've settled on a M3 CSL because it's just such a great all-round car. Practical, fast, handles well, just does everything I need it to, and it's just brilliant fun.
The company started from just a hobby. When I was racing, bought myself an M3. It seemed like the right car to drive to and from work, to park up while I was away for all the time while I was racing. Went on the forums to get information from people. Found out that a lot of the guys couldn't find someone decent to build diffs, so I bought one, took it apart, worked out how they worked, decided that I would start rebuilding them. Built up a little customer database in the hobby I was doing, and eventually work got in the way, and I handed in my notice and followed the dream, really, followed the hobby, and that's where I am now.
The reason I bought this car is because it's a high mileage one. I wanted a car to drive, not to keep. It's not a garage queen. It's my, I get out and use it. I drive it to work. I keep it clean. It's meant to be driven. It's done 142,000 miles now. If you were going to convert one, that's the one you do it to. Well, I've lived with the SMG system for 5 years now, and I've got on with it actually. You get used to it, you learn to drive around it, but there were things that I didn't like about it. And to be honest, I just wanted a change, really. I think I asked about manual conversions on the forum before I bought the car as an option, and no one had done it at that time. And I wasn't brave enough. It's been 5 years to kind of be brave enough to do it to the car, because the car is rare and it's kind of held on its plinth, and people worry about values, but it's mine. So I finally got round to the, I think I was thinking of selling it, and I couldn't think of anything else that could match it. So after I met Dara, we started talking about actually finally being brave enough to convert the car, and that's where we got to.
The SMG system, it runs exactly the same gearbox as the manual, but essentially what you've got is a hydraulic pump and a computer. So you have a hydraulic shifter, hydraulic clutch actuation, which is all done through the DME, the ECU in the car, hydraulically. And basically, to do the manual conversion, we're basically deleting all of that electrical, all the electrical components, all the hydraulic components, and putting it purely to an analog manual car.
There is one other modification that David and Dara have recently made to the transmission of this M3, and although not as visible, it is probably just as influential to the way it now drives.
The standard E46 M3 differential is a GKN Viscalock, so it has a viscous coupler. So the standard normal LSD is a plated, ramped LSD, which is purely mechanical. The Viscalock unit basically runs it's a non-Newtonian fluid, like corn flour and water. Mix the two together. When you hit it hard, when you hit it quickly, it's hard. If you touch it gently, it's soft. These diffs work on that sort of principle, that when it detects slow slip, it doesn't really activate, but then when you get aggressive slip from the differentiation in wheel speed between the two wheels, it basically ramps up, pushes out, pushes the clutches together, locks the diff. But diffs are kind of something that I really enjoy building, and BMW Motorsport, they produce various different ratios, so you can gear the car up or down. You can make the car accelerate faster, reducing top speed. You could, not that anyone would want to, make the car go faster and reduce the acceleration. What we've done on the CSL here, the standard ratio is a 3.62 final drive. We've put a 4.1 in there, which will increase the acceleration. I believe that that is the gear ratio that the car should have had from the factory, because it puts it into, it just feels it's on the power band all the time, and it transforms the car. It's the way to go.
Initially I thought there'd be some pushback from like the community, but actually they've all been really enthusiastic about it, and Darrow's had quite a lot of interest now from CSL owners wanting to convert.
So that's the backstory. But what's a manual CSL like to drive?
It's pretty much as you'd expect, to be honest. I mean, there are no surprises. The lovely thing is that you get into it and it doesn't feel like an aftermarket affair. It's as though BMW had done it. I mean, the shifter just looks completely normal. The pedals, well, to be honest, two-pedal BMWs, the brake pedal to me has always felt almost too far across towards the throttle pedal anyway. They've just taken out a clutch pedal usually, so there's no worries about that. It's always been the case that the brake pedal's in the right place for heeling and towing rather than left foot braking anyway, so that feels perfectly normal. The shift itself is, initially I was thinking, well, perhaps is it a little bit too weighty, a bit too physical? It's definitely heavier, it's more positive than the sort of slightly knuckly but not completely precise BMW shift that I'm used to. And yes, perhaps the control weighting doesn't entirely match, say, the steering and the pedals, but it's not far off. And actually I think it's sort of what you would expect BMW to have done if they had produced a manual CSL. They'd have given it something a bit more positive. I like it. Has it changed the character of the car at all? Not really, I don't think, no. Because there are so many other bits that make up the raw character of this car. What has changed the character of this car is that new diff. Because the way this spins up now, the whole car just feels more alive because of that. And of course the lovely thing is that you're actually using the manual gearbox more often as well, putting in more shifts, and it's easier to access that amazing, amazing top end, because the one thing you can't drive a CSL without talking about is the sound of that straight six. It's just that growl all the way around to that spine-tingling top end. What an engine. This car just feels like the complete package now.
While I was driving this, I remembered having a discussion with a senior BMW engineer many years ago. I thought that 3 pedals should at least still be an option on the top tier of BMW M cars. He didn't. Driving this CSL with a manual box today certainly hasn't changed my thoughts on that. It feels every bit as in keeping with the character of the car as the SMG system. The same way that a GT3 can feel great with either a PDK or a manual. It takes a brave person to tinker with an icon, even a little. To some, it will always be slapping Maybelline on a Mona Lisa. But, as with, albeit on a larger scale, Eagle in the E-Type or Alphaholics in a GTA, in this case, I really do think it has been worth the risk. Thank you very much for watching, as ever. If you haven't already, then please do think about subscribing to the channel and clicking on that little bell notification icon. It really does help. And if you haven't seen our series on all the greatest M3s, then why not go and have a look for that elsewhere on Carfection.